When key comic books start performing like they are this past week, it means that the collectors are starting to give up. Let's get into it. Another week, another list, absent of Deadpool, Wolverine, kind of, and Dazzler.
I know it's crazy. We don't have some of the mainstays that we've been seeing all year, even stuff from 2023. It's almost like a completely new Hot 10 list.
The hottest comic books being covered every single week for over 4 years straight without skipping a beat. We'll be here next week. We'll be here the week after until the end of time. So hit the subscribe button, because if I can't scuba, then what's this all been about? Taking you back to 1961 with Detective Comics 298 with the first appearance of the second Clayface, who enjoyed scuba diving.
Well, he is a scuba diver, and way back in March of 2023, Deadline reported that even though scripts are always changing, at that current time, Clayface was posed to be a big character in the upcoming Matt Reeves Batman 2. Now, personally, I can't really see Clayface in that universe, one that's more grounded in reality. I mean, look how they did Riddler. But I could see this more for like the James Gunn universe.
Clayface is a very strange character, one that really isn't rooted in reality like the rest of the Matt Reeves villains are. And this makes me feel like there's going to be a similar thing to what they did with Bane in the Dark Knight trilogy with Dark Knight Rises. You know, just like remove all the cool stuff because we need to make it more realistic. And the next thing you know, you have Tom Hardy sounding all weird. Well, I think this would be a better fit for a James Gunn-led film or show. I think of King Shark. I think of Polka Dot Man. And we have a 1.8 that broke records this past week. Last selling in 2018 for $200, up 17%, now selling for $234. The 3.5 is up 10%. The 5.0 broke records this past week. Last selling in March of this year for $735, up 16%, now selling for $850.
Which makes me think this is a risky book if you're looking at it from a spec play, because the upcoming DC slate gives us the Joker sequel in October of this year. We won't get Superman until July of next year, Supergirl June of 2026, and Batman Part 2 October 2nd, 2026, and that's even if he shows up in this movie.
Let's assume the rumors are right. But Clayface isn't in Batman 2, which is slated for the end of 2026. That means that if it doesn't happen in that movie, at best, you're hoping for this book to pay off in 2027.
Although we may get Clayface in live action before we get Blade, number 9 on the list. We have Tomb of Dracula 10, the first appearance of Blade, and I think collectors are fed up holding this book.
I think they're giving up. They're officially putting them online, getting rid of their Tomb 10s. It's an awesome book. It's a major key. It's a tough book in high grade. But this movie was slated for years ago, announced back in 2019, has lost 6 different writers, 2 different directors, and I looked it up. I remember being at San Diego Comic-Con 2019 when this movie was announced, alongside of Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Shang-Chi.
Movies that came and went a long time ago. Even Mahershala Ali's rep said something online to the effect of, "This is the most unprofessional thing that I've ever seen." We have a CGC 4.5 up 7%, selling for $650. The 6.0 did clock in a year-high sale at $850. That's a 12% increase. The 6.5 is up 15%, and the 9.4 sold for $37.50, 10% above average.
It's such a shame because Blood Hunt, the ongoing event over at Marvel, is stellar. I'm recommending it to all my homies. You got to read the event. Issue 2 was fantastic. I'm catching up on issue 3, and I'm in it for the long haul. And I can't remember the last time I said that about a Marvel event. Well, over at Deadpool Wolverine in the trailer, we have Sticky Fingers reprising his role from the canceled show from, 2006 on Spike TV, where he portrayed Blade for 1 season. And it's crazy to think that we're going to get that before Wesley Snipes and Mahershala Ali officially.
Yeah, at this point, I think we're going to get GTA 6 before we get Mahershala Ali as Blade on screen. Moving on to number 8 on the list, we have a book that I don't think has ever made the Hot 10, X-Men issue 2, the first appearance of the Vanisher, the second appearance of the X-Men.
Now, I happen to know that this right here is one of your very first purchases when you got back into the comic game, Jem.
Yeah, this was one of the first Silver Age books that I picked up, and I think it was the first book I ever bought from somebody on Instagram. It was a CGC 1.0, and I think I paid like $100. It blew my mind that such an old book, a key issue, could come so cheap, even at a low grade.
And I think that right there is exactly why this book is on our list this week. We do have 4 very compelling sales to discuss, but nothing that's too extravagant, because X-Men 1 is so expensive that people can look at X-Men 2 as a entry point for a major X-Men key that isn't that competitive of a book to acquire. The 1.8 sold for $485. It's up 17%. But take a look at this. The 2.0 sold for less, $455, and that's still an increase of 4% when you compare it to the recent 12-month average. The 2.5 sold for $50 more, $503, for an increase of 19%. And then the 5.5 clocked in its year-high sale, selling for $14.95, where it was selling for around $1,000 all year long. Clearly, it's X-Men 97 love, but the fact that the mutants are the next big phase of the MCU with the live action currently in development, this book seems like a great time to buy.
Yeah, this is a next best thing book. X-Men 1 is out of reach for most collectors, but X-Men 2 is surprisingly affordable, although a little bit more expensive than I remember paying for it back in the day. Moving on to number 7 on the list. Okay, we had to have some Wolverine here, and why not his first full appearance in Incredible Hulk 181?
I want to send you comics every single month, and this month we're sending every single member a Boys Number 1, Johnny Desjardins, Virgin Homelander American Flag Virgin variant. ComicTom101.com to join the community. Link in the description to support the show directly, and we'll send you some funny books. Let's talk about Logan, because the 3.0 is up 7%, 7.55%, 9.23%. And when a comic this expensive is hovering around the 10% marker, it doesn't make me think that it's for spec reasons. I think it has nothing to do with Deadpool Wolverine and everything to do with this book just hitting what I think it's going to be going for at its lowest.
This doesn't seem like Deadpool and Wolverine hype. I mean, this wasn't the book that was championed by the community when that news broke. We know that was Wolverine 1. This kind of just seems like the regular life cycle of Hulk 181. It's always going to be a popular book. We got an entry-level, no-grade copy. It's missing the front cover. It sold for $810 back in November, and it just broke records, selling for $989. That's an increase of 22%. And then we got the Mark Jewelers 6.5, which sold for $3,300 in the comic heyday 2020. It just broke records, selling for $8,100 for a 145% increase. It could be that this book is just perpetually relevant, or it could be pizza.
You're not wrong, Jem. It could be because of the flatbread. It could be because of the pizza. DiGiorno's is absolutely teaming up with the Deadpool Wolverine franchise and releasing 4 different specials. Hit the like and subscribe, comic fam. We're going to keep you up on all things moving comics, despite how tasty or not they may be. We have the Wade special, a sweet and salty combo, not just for mercs, made with the pineapple and black olives to pay tribute to Wade Wilson's pizza in the first movie.
You got the Gimme Chimmy. It's a chimichanga-inspired pizza that's a fiesta for your taste buds and topped with spicy cumin sauce, beef topping, jalapeno, and cheddar and mozzarella cheeses.
You got the spicy Wolvie pie, crafted with Wolverine and other meat lovers in mind. The pie is stacked with pepperoni, bacon, and chorizo.
And then you got the Maximum Pep, made with maximum flavor and zero regrets. Just like Deadpool's decisions, Maximum Pep is piled high with sliced and diced pepperoni. I don't think people are buying Hulk 181s because of pizza, but it's just funny, more marketing from Deadpool and Wolverine.
And now we're back to people giving up on their spec with Amazing Spider-Man 41. This is the first appearance of the Rhino at the list at number 6, because this book was ranking on the Hot 10 so much last year, proving that it was interesting at best, that they were doing an R-rated movie with Aaron Taylor Johnson getting all built up. You remember him from Kick-Ass? He put on like 100 pounds, and he's running on all fours, biting people's face off with an R-rated film. Like, this right here seemed like something so unique that maybe Sony can do something special. And then Madam Web came out and disappointed everyone, and now this movie, which was pushed back upwards of a year to not compete with Deadpool Wolverine, is looking worse by the day. And the numbers are proving it. People are putting this up online and letting it go for so cheap.
Well, the Rhino book had potential because of the CinemaCon tease that we saw in April of 2023. We finally got a comic-accurate version of Rhino, not whatever that mechanical suit thing was from Amazing Spider-Man 2. People seem to be getting rid of the book, but it's still performing pretty well. The 3.5 is up 19%. A year-high sale clocked in at $345. The 4.5 sold for $390. That's also a year-high sale, and that's also 19% up. The 5.0 was up 12%. The 6.0 was up 9%. The 7.0 was also up 12%. And then the 8.0 sold for $1,580, 24% higher, and also a year-high sale.
There may be a lull period coming with this book because the movie is supposed to come out in August and is pushed back to December at the end of this year. Well, At best, the movie performs and it goes up, or you wait till after the movie comes out, like a lot of people are going to probably do, and try to scoop it up even cheaper than it's been going for the last 6 months.
We've already talked about multiple mutant keys, X-Men number 2, Incredible Hulk 181. Number 5 on the list is Uncanny X-Men issue 101, where Jean Grey becomes the Phoenix. Now, if you want to know all the keys associated with a character like Jean Grey, you got to check out Key Collector Comics.
Absolutely. Do a character search on any of your favorite characters or ones that you're looking to learn a little bit more about, and you type in the name and it spits out all the relevant key books that you gotta know when you're on the hunt. Utilize code Tom101, you unlock a free 2-week subscription of the app. I think the app is like $20 a year. It's dollars a month. You find one book because of Key Collector, it pays for the service for the entire year. You won't be disappointed, and you support the show.
This is the second most important Jean Grey book behind X-Men number 1 that has made the list multiple times this year. Come to think about it, it makes the list multiple times every year for no apparent reason.
You make a good point, Jem. This book, every time it comes on the list, there's like some things going on. I mean, Stephanie Phillips is going to be writing a Jean Green story where she's taking her into space and dealing with the power cosmic and other cosmic characters. It seems very intriguing, and there's a slate of beautiful covers that I want to get to. However, when you look at monumental Jean Grey appearances, you're right. X-Men 1, which is far out of reach for most collectors, comes to mind. And then it's this book. And then you have the Dark Phoenix saga. And then like some of the clone stuff. I mean, if you look up on Key Collector, as we mentioned, there's only about 20 notable keys compared to Wolverine, which exceeds 80.
Well, we did get the Phoenix at the end of X-Men 97, although it left Jean Grey, but the Phoenix never really leaves Jean Grey, so maybe there is some spec that she'll show up again in Season 2. We have a CGC 4.5 up 10%. The 5.5 sold for $380. That's a year-high sale and 28% above average. The 7.5 is up 17%. The 9.0 is up 18%. And the 9.4 clocked in the sale at $1,289, a 19% increase.
It's been a month since we chatted about this book last, and since then there's been an increase to the census of 50 different copies. 5 more 9.0s, 7 more 9.2s, 3 more 9.4s, 2 more 9.6s, and 3 more 9.8s. There's only 200 9.8s on the census. It's crazy to think that in that short of time, there have been 3 more uncovered.
I'm sorry, I gotta say, I'm not a fan of the Phoenix logo they're using for the upcoming series. They probably should have went with the old school one. My favorite variant out of all these would definitely be the Rose Beige, and apparently Marvel liked it as well because they made the version the 1 out of 50 variant.
Peach Momoko's cover looks stunning, but that's no surprise. The AKA variant, which is open to order, is getting the 1 in 100 treatment because it deserves it. Next on the list at number 4 is Star Wars 42. People are giving up on some major keys.
Collectors are dumping their first appearance of Boba Fett in comic books, and this is the perfect example of what spec does to a book. Let's get into the numbers. 12
different sales outperformed the recent 12-month average because the market is being flooded with people giving up on the spec. We're going to skip most of them, Key Collector for all of them, but the 9.4, I'll remind you, hit heights of $1,300 back in 2021, just sold for an increase of 2% when you compare it to the recent 12-month average for a solid $290.
People are getting rid of those 9.6s. We had 5 copies outperform the 12-month average, the highest selling for $500, which is an increase of 22%. However, far below the heights of $1,600 that it hit just back in 2021.
And then we have the 9.8 selling for about what it's been going for all year long, $1,175, on a book that back in 2021 was about to hit $5,000.
This book was on fire during 2021 and 2022. Really, The Mandalorian set off the interest in Boba Fett, and then Boba Fett would get his own series with The Book of Boba. In 2022, the book in 9.8 averaged $2,500. Last year, it averaged $1,528. This year, it's averaging about $900. However, the current sold prices are still 3 times higher than sales prior to 2020.
The book is clearly in an adjustment period, and it's starting to settle because a 9.8 around $1,000 seems pretty fair for this major Star Wars key. It just shows that members are giving up on the spec now before it goes down anymore.
I think number 3 on the list demonstrates that mutant keys aren't necessarily hot just because of potential Deadpool Wolverine cameos or even the upcoming live-action X-Men in the MCU. Avengers Annual 10, the first appearance of Rogue, is all X-Men 97.
13 different sales outdid the recent 12-month average in 7 days, and that's only in the last week. This book has been on our Hot 10 on and off for over a month. We're going to skip a lot of the sales. Peep Key Collector Forum, the 9.4 sold for an increase of 3%. The 9.6 had 6 different copies outsell the recent 12-month average, the highest being for 265, an increase of 19%. And the 9.8, whose heights were reached back in 2021, selling for $2,500, just sold for $675 for a strong 3% increase.
24 more slabs on the census since we talked about this book just 2 weeks ago. That includes 2 more 9.6s and 2 more 9.8s. And even though that $675 sale is 3% above its 12-month average, it's far from the heights of $2,500 that it sold for in March of 2021.
And then what the heck is this doing here so high up on our list? And it feels good, Jem, doesn't it? Number 2 on the list, Amazing Spider-Man 14. Ditko goodness, double-digit Spider-Man. Classic as hell, the first appearance of the Green Goblin. And I don't think it's because of Zeb Wells.
Spider-Man Key's got to be the safest books to own. A CGC 4.0 sold for $1,730. That's a 3% increase. The 4.5 is up 2%. The 5.0 is up 11%. The 7.0 is up 12%. And the 8.0 sold for $6,250. That's 5% above its 12-month average.
In the last 6 months, there's been an increase of 184 copies added to the census, and we lost a 9.4 but gained a 9.6. There's only 28 total 9.6s on the census. Congratulations to whoever bought, cracked, pressed, and resubmitted that book.
And we couldn't find any news regarding Green Goblin. I mean, the only thing is in the current run of Amazing Spider-Man, Green Goblin's sins have been passed on to Spider-Man, transforming him into Spider-Goblin. But I don't think that's why people are buying this book.
Yeah, I want to know what the community thinks about this ASM 52 cover. It's a ASM 300 homage, and I don't think there's anybody who's like super hyped on Spider-Man. We got to just give it up to Jonathan Hickman for his ultimate Spider-Man run, keeping Spider-Man relevant as hell.
What do you guys think about the Zeb Wells run? What do you think about this ASM 300 homage? And why do you think Green Goblin is making the Hot 10 list? As we move on to number 1, it's the first full appearance of Silver Surfer and Fantastic Four 48.
The hottest book in the world. And I mentioned it earlier in the video. No Deadpool on this list. No Wolverine Frank Miller. No Dazzler. No Taylor Swift spec. No, we have Kirby Cosmic Goodness. Stan Lee's favorite character. We have the Silver Surfer Norrin Rad. 3.5 is up 82% for a year-high sale, selling for $1,500. Someone way overpaid, Jem, because the 4.5 just sold for $11.49, an increase of 7%. The 5.5 is up 7%, and 3 different copies outsold that recent 12-month average, the highest for $15.25.
Whoever bought that 3.5 should have held out for a 5.5. The 7.0 sold for $3,000. That's a year-high sale, and that's 26% above average. The 9.0 sold for $7,500, right at about its 12-month average. Now, we found this clip from October of 2021. Key Collector had an inside source stating that the Fantastic Four movie is heavily a multiverse movie, and Silver Surfer is very much at the center. So it got me thinking that we may see Shatilov wield the power cosmic in this movie, but being a multiverse story, that might just be one tale, and we'll probably still see Norrin Rad as Silver Surfer.
There's no way they're not going to have Norrin Rad Silver Surfer. I completely agree with you, Jem. Let us know what you think in the comment section below, because it's not stopping with issue 48. Issue 50 had 3 different sales outperform the recent 12-month average, and that is a brown cover most people don't collect.
It's an important book. Johnny Goes to College. It's the end of that trilogy. There hasn't been much news regarding the movie since the casting announcements. I think they did one other small thing since then. But the movie begins filming next month, and the movie's scheduled to release July 25th of 2025. So we're going to start to see more and more Fantastic Four marketing soon.
Are they going to do us dirty and not give us Norrin Rad? Is Shatilov the only one we're going to get? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. And as always,
Geek responsibly and stay Minty fresh.
Enough said.